Hi.
Hi, Jaylo. Hi.
Hi.
How you doing, babes?
Good. Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's been a pretty good morning so far.
Yeah.
We had some leftovers because you didn't finish your full thing of Panda Express last night. So
I
that
did
was
not.
fun.
I did not. So I thought, why don't we just share it? Because there was enough chow mein for the both of us and enough fried rice and enough meat, and it was good.
Yeah.
Good.
I woke up around 7:30.
Yeah.
Which was earlier than you, so
Yeah.
I watched some YouTube videos, tried to go on Clubhouse, but there wasn't anything that interesting going on at the time, so...
Yeah, the Women in Space thing might have been interesting.
There's so many cool rooms on there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not part of that world, at least not yet.
No. Maybe one day I will. I don't know.
You never know.
Yeah.
Are you excited for me that I'm going to be doing the men's thing tonight?
I guess. I mean, I'm not going to be a part of it, so...
Oh my goodness.
I suppose. I mean, I hope I hope it turns out really well, but yes. I won't be coming in.
Well, I do wonder, though, if I'm here tomorrow night, which is still kind of up in the air, if you want to come into the other room I'm hosting.
Maybe for a little bit. I don't know.
Mix it up.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it would be good for whoever's in there to hear my perspective on things, I suppose.
I think we're going to be talking about the police.
Oh, I don't know if I want to get involved in that one.
I think that'll be fun.
Oh.
Because you have a lot of thoughts. Now, your dad was briefly a policeman, am I correct?
He was a civilian police officer in Pearl Harbor.
What does that mean exactly?
He was he was out of the military when he was a police officer for the Pearl Harbor Police Department, as far as I know.
Do you think that your conservative leanings come from having parents who were not just conservative and first generation to this country, but also were big military people in the sense that your dad served in the military and your mom used to buy from the army exchange stores and whatnot?
Oh, you mean because we used to shop at the military?
Well, yeah, I mean, so you guys were an ingrained, you guys were a real military family.
Yes, yes.
And do you think that also affects your political belief system? It's
possible because, I mean, I didn't know much about politics growing up because we didn't talk about it. But it's possible that because I grew up from that kind of a background, then I would be more conservative.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of military people in my family. So it's not just my dad, but it's also my uncles and my cousins. And my cousins, I believe, are still in the military. So, I've got ties to that. So, yeah. I think you're right about that.
I was just curious about that, babes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yes. But it's been a good morning overall.
Yes.
I enjoyed myself.
Good.
Hopefully this afternoon will be the same.
Oh, I think it will. If the morning starts off good, I believe the afternoon will start off good.
Yes.
Yes.
Last night, after doing this, you and I watched a couple of movies. We watched It Happened One Night and then Jaylo's with Dirty Faces.
Angels with Dirty Faces, not Jaylo. There's no Jaylos in there.
Okay.
Who would be the Jaylos?
I don't know, maybe your family? I don't know, maybe they produced that movie.
Oh my goodness.
Yes, and it would be you wake up one morning, you're like, I'm a Jaylo, but I have a dirty face.
Oh my. Bad joke.
Sorry, babes. I was trying, I forgot what the dad joke was I told you this morning. But you didn't think it was that funny.
What was it?
Oh, no, it was last night. We were talking about It Happened One Night, and I said they made the sequel, It Happened One Afternoon, which wasn't too good. And then they did a third one in the trilogy called It Happened at Brunch.
No, I thought that was funny.
Oh, thanks.
I was laughing.
Nice.
It happened at brunch, and I said, I thought it happened at lunch.
Well, and I said, that would have worked, but because they did It Happened One Afternoon was the second film, they thought It Happened at Lunch would be too confusing.
It's kind of funny.
Thank you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about It Happened One Night?
I'll try, because it was kind of a weird movie. So, it starts off with, Ellen Andrews is this rich girl, and her father was captain of a boat, I think. They were on a boat.
They were on a boat.
Yeah. Her father's this rich guy, and she was married to a man who is named King Wesley, and I wasn't sure if he was an actual king or if that's what his name, but I think it's his real name. Anyway, so she was married to this guy named King Wesley. Her father hated him and admitted to her that I got the marriage annulled. And she's like, "You can't do that. I can't believe it." And so he's giving her food. And she says, "Look, if you don't fix this, then I'm going to break everything in this room, all the furniture in the room." So
they were on a boat at the time.
Yeah.
So that's why.
So they're trying to give her food. He tries to get her to eat this steak, and instead she starts breaking things. She escapes from the room and she jumps into the water. And so they're looking for her. She, meanwhile, gets on this bus, right? It's like a
Greyhound
train,
thing.
And meets Clark Gable's character, who they don't know his name yet. But you can tell right off that things don't go very well. He is concerned about her because they stop in, what was the place they stopped in?
I want to say Florida, but I could be wrong.
No, it wasn't Florida. It was, what was it? Was it West Virginia? I forgot. It was a city, I think, but I can't remember. And she lost her bag. He's concerned about her, and she's like, "Well, what about the ticket?" "Oh, I got that all right, but I lost my bag." So she pretty much lost her luggage. And things don't start off well because she tells him, "Stop meddling in my affairs. I'll take care of myself, blah, 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 what have you." So they're driving, and it's raining like a lot. It's stormy. And they have to, I don't know why they are doing this, but they have to let them off the bus.
I think something might have been wrong with it.
Yeah. They have to let them off the bus. The weather is awful, and they have to stay in this motel. Am I right?
Correct.
I want you to chime in now, please.
Okay. One thing we might want to say about Clark Gable in this movie is he is a reporter, but he just got fired from his newspaper in New York for being an alcoholic.
Yes, his name is Peter Warren.
Yep. They share this room and are basically telling people, we're husband and wife, this is what's going on. At one point the next day, the detectives that her father hired believe that she's in this hotel. So they knock on the door, barge in, and Clark Gable starts yelling at Claudette Colbert.
Yep, and acting like they're actually husband and wife.
Mm-hmm. Which convinces the detectives to leave the room without, taking her away.
And there's some funny things in the movie because she goes to, she's trying to find the showers.
Oh yeah, like a lady is in there, but she skips the line and just walks right in.
Yeah, she's like, if you want a shower, and the other ladies are laughing at her. It's like, if you want a shower, you have to wait in line. Hotels were not the same back then as they are today.
Yeah, I imagine indoor plumbing was more of a thing, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, isn't that awful? Yeah, I would imagine.
In any event, babes. At one point during the movie, they get back on the Greyhound bus, but it stops because some kid's parent is having an issue. Right?
Yeah, and she's crying because her mom collapses.
Mm-hmm. And while they're standing around, because Claudette Colbert has been all over the newspaper, somebody approaches Peter and says, I know who that is. Maybe we could go in on the reward. Peter takes the guy aside and explains, listen, you want into this. This is great. We're not just turning her in. We're holding her as hostage. We're going to get $1 million ransom. And, I got guns in my bag. I really need you to help me with this. We might have to kill some people. And the guy starts freaking out.
Yeah.
And runs away. But meanwhile, Gable is smart enough to realize that if they just stay on the bus, eventually the guy's going to stop, call the authorities, and have them arrested at the next train station.
Yep.
So they go into the woods. There's this scene made me kind of chuckle.
Uh-huh.
He makes these, like,
a
bed out of, like, hay and grass.
Hay and grass, yep.
And at one point, she's laying there and she's all like, I don't need you. You're just holding me back and whatever. And then she looks up and he's not there.
Yeah, he's like, Peter. And she's freaking out. And
he went to get her food.
Yeah, she's freaking out. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I thought I was so scared. She's like, I just went to get his food.
Next day, they try to hitchhike. Peter is not having any luck. And is it Ellen decides to pull up her pants leg, and the man immediately stops her.
And he goes, and this one part he goes, you take off your clothes, you're going to get a bunch of cars to stop. Mm-hmm. So I guess back then it was risque.
Yeah, it's not really that big of a deal now.
And now it isn't. I mean, now everything is not quite off limits. Anyway, go on.
That's interesting coming from you, but in any event.
Well, why is it interesting?
Well, it's always, I find this fascinating for the right. They're always saying that censorship.
Can we please go on? We're not talking about politics here.
Is wrong with the. Okay, all right.
Thank you.
In any event, did I just scratch you with my toe? Oh, it's not that long.
It's okay. It didn't hurt.
Okay, good. Because you banged your foot into mine, and I'm like, I think you just banged.
I kicked your foot.
Large toe, but in any.
And yeah, you had to cut that.
Oh.
I got clippers.
Oh. Well, I'm happy for you there. Whoa.
Go on, please.
The driver stops. Somebody tries to steal the car. Clark Gable goes after them, eventually gets the car, and they decide that they're going to take it, which they never really followed up on, but I thought was interesting. And it's one of those really old-time cars, too, because this movie came out in 1934, and I believe it was shot in 33.
Shot 33?
Yeah. They probably made it in 33, and it came out in 34, I think. I don't know.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
It's in the 30s.
Like The Rock says, it doesn't matter. I got 50 Bentleys in the West End.
All right. You're getting off topic here.
Okay. They go find a hotel room for the night, and Clark Gable basically tells the owners, we're going to pay you for the week, but wait until morning, just chill out.
Yep.
Two of them head back into the room. And Claudette Colbert is all like, I want to run off with you, bro. And he's like, no.
She didn't say it quite like that, but she basically admitted to him that she was in love with him.
Okay. Some time passes. He tells her, no, girl, that ain't happening. She passes out. I believe naturally, not because he gave her anything.
No, she goes to sleep.
Yes, that's
not
another
out. She goes
term
to
for
sleep.
passing out.
Okay.
He didn't pull a Cosby. All right, babes. Don't get too upset. Anyways, she's asleep. There's this kind of like partition in the bedroom. He looks over, sees her sleeping, says, did you mean what you said? And he's looking at her unconscious. And instead of doing what most men at the time would do, he leaves the room and decides to go to New York, tell his old newspaper boss that I want $1,000. I know who Ellen is going to marry, and it's going to be me.
That's right.
He convinces the guy to give him the grand, goes back to the hotel, which is like a 3-hour drive both ways. But by now she's gone because the couple who owns the hotel, the lady seems like a battle axe, to put it that way.
She's very old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know that she likes to shit because she's talking about... we do, because she's talking about magnesia. And now she was up. She did. She did say that.
She's talking. Yeah, milk of magnesia makes you poop.
Okay.
I don't know if it was that magnesia, but it was magnesia.
Yes. And anyways, in any event, they go in. This just seems really weird that people could do this back in the 30s, and they just wake her up out of sleep and say, "You're not in the same bed as that one man. You don't know where he is. I thought he was your husband," and they kick her out in the middle of the night.
Yeah, they did kick her out, and she's like, "Oh, where is he?" Like, well, he's gone now, and she's upset.
I'm assuming there are laws against that now.
So she, so I remember somehow she ends up back at home.
She goes to the police station. They know how to get her done. She gets home. And by now we should say that her dad and this king fellow have made up publicly because they just want her back.
Yep.
Okay. The wedding is about to happen.
So she's officially going to marry him again.
Mm-hmm. Because of the annulment.
Annulment, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The dad comes into the room. He's like, are you sure you'd be happy with King?
She starts crying.
Explains that she fell in love with this dude.
And she's like, I really don't know much about him, and he really hates me.
And he hates you more.
And he hates you more because for the way that you raised me. And he's like, you can still change it. You don't have to marry King. I mean, you know how I feel about this guy. The
father asks, what's homeboy's name? And she tells him it's Peter.
Peter Lorre.
Yep. He shows her a letter, which Peter Lorre, we get the sense because we're blind.
Yes.
That he wanted the reward.
Yes.
Okay. She freaks out, goes about her day. Peter comes over to see the dad. What we find out is he wanted the dad to reimburse him for the cost of the trip, but not the $10,000 reward.
Right.
Which is a lot of money.
That is a lot of money.
Okay. The father is now walking Ellen down the aisle, and he's whispering to her, he just wanted the money that it took you to come across the country.
Yep.
He didn't want any extra money. I think you should go after this man. There's a car on back. I'll cover for you.
Yeah.
Preacher starts talking. Ellen runs, takes off.
Yeah, so they're taking they're saying their vows. King agrees to his vows, and then she leaves him.
Mm-hmm. The dad ends up giving King something like $100,000.
He paid him off.
1934 money.
That's a lot of money for that time.
$100,000.
That's nothing compared to.
I mean, I would take that money today.
I would too.
Yeah.
I would too.
If somebody offered to buy me for $100,000, you would take that money?
No.
Okay.
Not if they're buying you.
Okay, let's say.
Oh.
Marjorie Taylor Greene comes to you.
Bugs.
Hold on.
No, I would not take the money.
And it would be for the good of your country.
I would not take the money.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Go on. if someone I love is being bought, no, I wouldn't take the money.
Okay. Did you ever see that episode of Married with Children?
No.
Where...
I don't know, actually.
I know that this is an aside, and we'll get back to the movie. There was this girl in high school who Al used to date before Peg, and she becomes this, famous fitness instructor.
Oh, you told me about that.
Did I tell you about that?
The one where she pays Peggy pays her the money to leave the house.
She basically says, I will pay you, she's like, Al is so good in bed, I will pay you $1 million for your husband.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
I'll pay you $1 million for your husband. But didn't she, figure out a way to get her out of the house?
Yeah, Peg gave the money back.
Yeah.
But if somebody offered you $1 million, you wouldn't do that.
Of course not.
Okay.
That's stupid.
And I would have a say in this because slavery is illegal. But
it is illegal. That's not good.
If it's for...
No, I would not. If somebody wanted to traffic you or somebody else, I wouldn't.
Not traffic me, but let's say they wanted me for their own needs, right?
Well, human trafficking is a form of slavery.
No, but let's say, again, I'll go with Marjorie Taylor Greene since it's somebody, in your wheelhouse. She says to you, I've heard Rick is really good in bed. No, hold on. Don't tickle me yet. She says, I've heard amazing things about him, and I know you're in love, Jaylo. But I need to make America great again, and I need a de-stressor at the end of the day. Could I buy it? You still want to do it? Okay, good.
No!
Okay, all right. Let's
go on before I work myself up into a frenzy and I kick you off of the bed.
So that's basically the end of the movie.
Yeah, she runs away with Clark Gable. But that was a strange movie.
I have heard about this movie for years. It's considered a classic as far as 1930 cinema goes. I enjoyed it.
I'd give it a week 7, but it was fun.
But I've seen better movies.
It was fun. I give it a week 7.
I would too. I think 42nd Street is a lot better, and I think that's a year earlier than this one.
42nd Street was great.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun. The storyline was easy to follow. Good singing.
Yes. Let's do a little bit of character analysis.
Okay.
Well, I mean, maybe we could start this off with some questions.
All right.
Near the end of the movie, when Clark Gable meets the dad, he's giving a speech about what he thinks Claudette Colbert needs. And one of the things that immediately struck out to me is he says she needs somebody who will give her a good sock every day, whether she needs it or not. And and that is, I believe that was slang for slapping somebody.
Kicking the
across
pants,
face.
right?
For slapping somebody.
Right.
I think if this movie was remade today, they probably would redo that dialogue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here's my thing. Whether or not he meant that he was really going to slap her, okay? Now I am in no way condoning any kind of domestic abuse at all. It's just wrong, right? I think what he means, I hope that he's trying to say this is that she needs some sense into her. She needs some discipline. And I'm hoping that's what he meant instead of actually socking her, smacking her. Because that never works.
And I know we've touched on this before, and I think even recently. It's interesting to me, and I'm not saying that I disagree with this at all. So let's make that clear. That it is completely wrong to slap a woman in the face. And I agree with that 100%. But it is socially acceptable to slap a woman you're dating on the ass. Like, you're still slapping them, but like one thing is it's like, oh, you should go to jail. And the other thing is like, oh, kind of nice.
Well, I don't really like it, but I mean, I'm not gonna call the police on you. I mean, I don't know. Well, I think if you leave welts and bruises on that area, because it is a sensitive area, then yeah, you should be called.
But there are some kinky people who are really into that.
I guess.
Did I ever tell you, babes, about the time when I was walking around in Denver and these ladies wanted to spank me and my friend? So we
yes, you did tell me that.
Did I talk about it here?
No, you didn't talk about it.
Something tells me you don't want me to.
No, I don't think we need to go there.
Okay.
That's a very, very strange story.
Let's just say it was the early 2000s. There was some alcohol involved.
I thought we were going to talk about it.
I'm just giving an overview. Alcohol involved, and it was a fun night for all.
Okay.
Except the people who passed away that evening, which I hope nobody
passed
did.
away that evening?
I mean, in the world.
Run them over?
No, in the world, not.
You didn't kill them.
I didn't kill anybody.
Okay. Yeah. Side note: nobody was killed
in this situation. But I'm sure if you looked at the population of the world that night and compared it to the next morning, some people did die.
Oh my goodness!
Yes. But so I have been spanked before. Actually, that wasn't because when I went. Okay, we don't have to go there. But let's get back to the movie. So you don't necessarily see it as a bad thing that he said that.
No, because I do think that there are women that have not been disciplined all their lives, right? Now, if this person meant that she needed to be smacked, right? Mm-hmm. It's one thing if you're smacking somebody to discipline them. It's another thing if you're smacking someone just to smack them and hurt them. But I do think that what he meant was she needed to be disciplined. She needed to have some sense knocked into her, but not to the point to where she has to call the police.
Wait a second. So you think it would be okay if he smacked her just to discipline her, even though she's a grown person? I
never said that.
Okay.
I'm just saying whatever disciplinary measures she needs, as long as she's not endangered and she's not being hurt, then, but that in no way means that I am advocating for beating somebody's wife senseless. No.
Okay.
There is a difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, wow, that's interesting to me.
Okay.
So, I believe that.
I mean, no, I don't believe I think I am talking too much, but yeah, I think he meant. I'm hoping that what he meant to say was she just needs to be a disciplined woman. And she needs structure. Maybe that's what it is.
Well, he said, I think his words were, and I may have it kind of wrong, is somebody who was soccer once a day, whether she deserves it or not.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I mean, back then that was, I would say that was a risky move for them to put that line in there.
I don't know, because I think spousal abuse was a lot more common in that day.
It wasn't really talked about then. It was common, but it wasn't talked about.
Or it was talked about, but more in a joking way. Like, oh, did you slap your wife tonight? Or, oh, I hit my wife too hard. She's starting to have scars on her face. I don't know. I wasn't alive in the 30s.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's my assumption based on what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. The only time I'll smack a woman is on the butt.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yes.
Here's my theory about that.
Go ahead.
Maybe the butt slapping isn't as, isn't as bad as face slapping just because the butt has more padding.
That's an interesting theory.
Well, I mean, people that are advocates for spanking kids, which I am.
I'm not.
Okay. Well, I think you can spank them without beating them, and there is a difference. But the reason why there's padding on their little butts is because of spanking, but they're gonna get over it. I did.
Oh.
I got over it.
Oh, when was the last time you were spanked? Except for me, not counting me.
I was really little.
Okay.
When I was really little.
Oh.
Very, very little.
Oh.
I probably deserved it.
Or maybe you didn't. Maybe your parents were just taking out their hatred on the world on you.
No, they didn't beat me. They just spanked me, and it hurt for a while, but it was over after that.
Maybe that's just what you need to tell yourself.
Okay. I thought we were going to get to character analysis.
Yes, let's do that, because you keep distracting me.
You keep distracting me.
Okay.
You keep going off on different kinds of tangents or rabbit holes or whatever.
I like doing that, babes.
Of course.
Of course. All right. What does the father... I forget his name. Did they say his name?
I cannot remember what his name is. I don't remember.
What does he teach us about unconditional love?
Yeah, I don't know that he's a good example of that. I don't know. Well, I think that he does love his daughter, but it seems like he wants something, what he wants for her is what he wants for her, and it's not, in the beginning, it didn't seem like it was her choice. Remember, because he got the marriage annulled.
I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
To provide a little bit of pushback, when he thinks he loses her, he tries to make amends with King, even though he doesn't think the king is right for his daughter. And even at the wedding, he's telling the daughter, I don't think you should marry this guy. I'm in complete support. If you want to cancel right now, as we're walking down the aisle, I'm behind you 100%.
Yeah. Or if you want to marry that other guy.
Now, we are also taught in our culture, when we look at older men, and I'm thinking guys like, 70 plus.
Yeah.
As of the time we're recording this.
Yeah.
In 2021.
Uh-huh.
As, those are men from a different generation.
Yes.
They didn't know how to show their feelings.
Some didn't, yes.
Right, but this movie was made, almost 90 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And presumably the father in this film is maybe 60, I would assume.
Oh, yeah, old guy.
So he's from a completely different generation.
Yes, yeah.
And yet...
And she's probably in her 30s, right?
That's my assumption.
Yeah.
He loves his daughter unconditionally.
Yes.
Now, we're going to ask a different question, but how do you feel about what I just said?
I think you may have a point there, yes. Because even though she was gone away and she did not like the choice that her father made to annul the marriage, she knew that she could still lean on her father.
Does this film teach us that there is a downside to unconditional love?
I never thought of that before.
Because think about this. Ellen is super rich.
Mm-hmm.
As such, she never had to learn certain things that are essential. Mm-hmm. Like just that you just don't run off on your life when you have people around you who are depending on you.
Or who are looking for you, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
There's an argument to be made that unconditional love is taken to the extreme can be a bad thing because it always lets the person you're loving know that they can screw you over, but they can always come back to you.
But then there makes an argument. I wonder though if you can argue that you can have unconditional love for somebody, but not accept everything that they do.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
The counter argument is basically what you just said, is that you have unconditional love, but you still push back.
Yes.
So maybe the film doesn't teach us that love is the wrong thing. It's possible that what we're supposed to learn is love without criticism is a bad thing.
Right. Love without correction or criticism. Or, what's the word? Boundaries. Boundaries?
Boundaries would be a better term.
Boundaries, yeah.
Yes.
You have to have boundaries.
I don't want to get into culture analysis, but I do have one question
That's
about
fine.
that.
That's fine.
Yeah, but people talk about that a lot in the media, and they all take their sides, and you kind of already know.
Well, it depends on how
my
you're going to
views.
ask it, too. I mean...
Well, my basic question is, you know some millennials.
Yeah. Some.
And I'm not talking about people my age who I'm an elderly millennial. I'm waiting to get my pension. But I'm talking about the young ones or members of Gen Z. How do you think they would react to this movie?
Here's what I don't mean to be unsympathetic, because I think when I say this, it's going to sound like I'm very unsympathetic to millennials. But I think because it seems to me like a lot of them didn't have to struggle a lot. Maybe they would think that she should be entitled.
I agree, and I don't necessarily know.
So I don't mean to sound unsympathetic, but it seems to me like the younger the generation is, the less work they want to put in.
I want to push back a little bit on what you're saying, but not too much, actually.
Okay.
I don't think it's that millennials haven't struggled, but my take on it is, and it's always the silent majority, yes. Right? So it's the vocal minority versus the silent majority.
Yeah.
My feeling about most millennials and Gen Z people, they suffer, but they think that the world should change because they've suffered.
Exactly. Now, having said that, I do think that there are millennials that don't feel this way.
Well, I'm one.
Yeah, I know that. But I do think that there are millennials that actually think differently, and they think more. They think differently than their counterparts. That they feel like working for something that you have, putting in the work in, appreciating what your parents have done for you. I think that there are people that think that way.
I think it's actually the majority, like I just said, but I think that we have this thing in our culture to where we want to amplify the voices. We want to amplify a certain group of voices because it helps keep us divided, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And just because you have the loudest voice, it doesn't mean that you're always correct. And I think that's what they feel like. Well, we have to have our voices heard, yes, but...
Everybody should have the right to be heard,
yes. But
that doesn't mean everybody's opinion should be respected 100% of the time.
Exactly.
I respect your right to an opinion, but that doesn't mean I respect your opinion.
Exactly. I totally agree. I mean, I'm not going to agree with, we don't have to agree with everybody's opinion, but they do have a right to it. But I totally agree with you on that one.
Exactly. Okay, so back to the character analysis.
Yes.
What does the old lady who helps run the motel teach us about
the battle axe, right?
Yes. Obsession. And I'm being hyper focused.
Obsession about her?
Well, yeah, like she's obsessed on who's staying in her hotel. She's always paying attention when she's not in the bathroom to who's leaving and coming.
It's very, well, I never thought of that. Well, I think it's good that she's watchful. She doesn't want to have just anybody in her hotel. But I think she's over obsessed.
Do you think that she's somebody whose life has passed her by, right?
It's possible.
Like, one of my thoughts is this lady probably saw a lot coming from that generation and didn't have the same opportunity that not only women have today, but just Americans living in this time have. She probably had a very rough existence, and perhaps her way of dealing with it was trying to have as much control as she could have. And it manifests in her, paying attention to silly details and waking customers up in the middle of the night.
Believe me, I think you are right on this one because, I've met many a controlling person, doesn't matter who it is, and something in their life it seemed like they've kind of been held back, right? So much to the point where they have to pay attention not just to details that people are doing, but they have to control every single or rather micromanage whoever is in their space.
Yes.
And that really takes a toll on a person.
I imagine it does.
Anyone that's in their space.
Yes.
I know from experience.
Oh my goodness.
I'm not going to say what experience, but I do know.
But not from me.
Not from you.
Good.
No, yeah. Life has passed them by, and it continues to pass. It may continue to pass her by.
Her? Oh, this lady.
The lady in the movie, I mean.
I'm imagining she's dead within a couple of years.
She is dead, probably.
Yes.
Whoever she was.
Yes, well, good.
Well, good, yes.
Yeah, I'm glad.
I'm glad.
Yeah, she's gone.
She's gone. Anyway, She's Gone is a good song by Hall & Oates.
Nice. Yeah, oh, by the way.
Yes.
We'll get into this later, but I have an idea about how you and I could possibly do a music show on Clubhouse without you being on there.
Oh, really?
Yes. Remind me to talk to you about that later on when we're not doing this.
Okay.
Yes. That's a story for another time.
Yes.
Anyways. What does Peter teach us about love?
I don't know. So I wasn't sure what to think about Peter, right? He seemed like he was very rough around the edges. What'd you say?
Yes.
I mean, he wasn't very nice to her in the beginning. He did some nice things for her, like gave her a ticket and made her breakfast, but he was kind of rough. And I wonder if it's because of his alcoholism, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, alcohol really changes a person if they're really deep into their addiction. And I think his concept of love is very distorted. Right? Maybe, here's another thought. Maybe the whole socking comment, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he thought that the way to handle this woman is to control her. And not just discipline her, but to control her. I don't know if that's correct.
That's possible.
Because he had this addiction, and he just kind of flies off the handle. You notice he kind of flies off the handle a little bit?
I have noticed that.
I think his concept of love, really, really loving someone is very distorted, and so he doesn't know how to show it because maybe he's seen very dysfunctional ways that people love each other, or maybe that's just how he is. I don't know.
I know the other day you were saying that I tend to lead the conversations and ask all the questions.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's any questions about this movie that you would like to ask me.
Um, yeah. Do you think that this movie is when we're talking about the pre-code era?
Yes.
Do you think that this movie took a lot of risks?
It's hard for me to say because I live now, right?
Yeah.
And you can do so many more things today that were just considered way, way taboo and completely over the edge back then. So I'll give you a quick example. And that's not to do with this film, but it may help demonstrate a point. I believe it was Jane Meadows. I'm sorry, it's Mia Farrow's mom, whose name I'm not remembering, but she played the original Jane in Tarzan.
Okay.
And there's this really interesting documentary from the early 90s hosted by Patrick Stewart called MGM Won the Lion Award. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they were talking about the first Tarzan movie. And she wore something that was provocative for then, but nothing really too risque today.
Right.
So they interview her about the movie, and she says people were calling me names.
Wow.
They were saying I was a whore.
Really?
They were saying, how could you do something like this?
Wow, because of what she was wearing?
Yes, wow. In the original Tarzan. The reason I say that is to say our standards are just so different. Mm-hmm. Having said that, it doesn't really seem like it pushed any boundaries. I keep hearing about these pre-code era movies where they'll have women play hookers. Mm-hmm. And things of that nature.
Yeah.
I don't know how much actual nudity there were in those films. Mm-hmm. But to me, this film doesn't seem that risque at all.
Yeah, because we come from another time. Mm-hmm. You know, we're in a younger generation than they are. And
also, this is where things get a little tricky. I've seen a lot of films from pretty much the 50s on. Mm-hmm. And they're tame by today's standard, but they were slightly more risque than this film, in a lot of cases.
Well, yeah, with Romeo and Juliet.
That's getting later. That's like 70s.
Yeah, I know, but in Romeo and Juliet at that time, it was an R rating. But when we watched it, because I watched the original Romeo and Juliet in my my freshman year of high school. And we didn't think it was as risque as a lot of things are back then, even back then. It's
always bizarre to me how the standards change. Like some things that were taboo back in the day are no longer, but then things that were not taboo then are culturally unacceptable now. You know, and there's so many examples of that it's culture is a real evolving living thing in a way, like language.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to ask me about this?
Are you interested in watching any Clark Gable movies? Because I heard Clark Gable's a really good actor.
I am. To be honest, I don't have a lot of knowledge of what his best films are. I'm assuming it's Gone with the Wind because that's the movie I've seen of his, but I haven't really watched any of his other movies.
He was Rhett Butler?
Now. Yes. It's very good in the movie, too.
And we will watch that eventually.
That, I believe, is still the highest grossing film ever made if you take into account inflation.
Wow.
Yes.
So, here's a side note. I remember I read this, I believe it was a fictional story called The Murder at Hobcob Barony. Mm-hmm. I think I may have told you about it. It's a good book. But what they did was they took famous stars and they put them in a book like Tallulah Bankhead, Clark Gable, Colleen Bingham. I don't know if Ben Partridge was one. Colleen Bingham was, I think, one of the main characters. And then there was Clark Gable, Tallulah Bankhead, and some other people. And I'm like, it's very interesting. Yeah. And it was, and they were trying to find out who killed Ben Partridge.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing with Clark Gable. I believe that people will know who he is in 200 years. Mm-hmm. But I also think that the only reason for that is because of his role in Gone with the Wind. Like, I think people will know that he's an actor, but they won't know him beyond that movie.
Right. So they're gonna know Gone with the Wind more than they would know It Happened One Night.
That's the way it is now, right? Because I mean, we watched Gone with the Wind in school, and I've heard about it happen one night, but I'm 38 years old, a film fan, and last night was the first time I saw it.
Wow.
You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been hearing about him for years, but I just never. I knew he was gone, but I didn't know what he was in.
He's been in plenty of other stuff too, but Gone with the Wind is definitely. It's a career-defining film for everybody who is involved in it, right? Mm-hmm. So Vivian Leigh did A Streetcar Named Desire and many other movies, but it's that film is just a cultural phenomenon.
Yes.
You know, it's 80 years later, and people are still making a big deal over the movie.
It's possible that one was. I think A Streetcar Named Desire was in the
50s.
The 50s. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and that one was a little risque too.
I'm sure it was. I haven't seen it though.
Yeah, there is a scene that happens with Stanley and Blanche.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
Yeah. But right.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
I don't. Of course, I don't think they show a lot, but
yeah, it's implied.
It's pretty. It's when I first saw it, I'm like, what? He does what? And if I remember correctly, it wasn't a very long movie.
Huh. Interesting. It's on HBO Max right now, so.
Yes.
Maybe
I always depended on the kindness of strangers.
Oh my goodness, Jaylo.
Oh my goodness.
One last question about It Happened One Night.
Yes.
What do you think happens to these characters?
Well, I think that Ellen and Peter make a life for themselves, but I don't know that they stay together for a while.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm giving them maybe 5 years.
Yeah, maybe they're married for a short time and then they just decide, okay, this isn't going to work.
I could definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I wish that they would have had another story around King Wesley.
Really?
Well, I mean, maybe not another story, but just kind of a little background into how him and Ellen met.
But she tells the story of how they met. She was running from her dad and went into somebody's car randomly on the street, and it was King's car.
Ah.
Yes.
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 I forgot about that.
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, but I give it a week 7 just because it was kind of a strange.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to follow the storyline, but I did enjoy it.
I did
strange.
too.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Jaylo. The next movie we saw was Jaylo's with Dirty Faces.
Angels with Dirty Faces.
From 1938.
I thought this was a better movie, but I'd like you to take the lead on this.
This is really good.
It was very good.
And it's one of those movies, and I told you this last night, it shouldn't work for me, but it does for whatever reason.
Yes.
Okay, so basically, James Cagney plays Rocky, who is this delinquent young kid when we first meet him. He's arrested. His friend doesn't go to jail, but he does. Next, we fast forward sometime, and we see him going back to jail, and he's talking with Humphrey Bogart, basically telling him, I'm going to take the rap for this, but when I get out, I want that $100,000. You're going to hold it for me. 3 years pass by. Rocky is released from prison, goes back to the old neighborhood. He's now a little bit older, hopefully wiser, and he goes to church. We see the adult version of the kid who got away when Rocky was first arrested.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. And his name was Father
Conley.
Conley. Do you remember his first name?
Jerry.
Jerry
is so the kid became a priest.
Yes, the kid became a priest.
And they knew him for a very long time.
Exactly. So Jerry is talking with Rocky and says, I know a place where you can stay. Go down the street. This lady will hook you up. He does so. Jerry and Rocky were yelling at these girls at the beginning of the movie. And one of the girls grew up to be his now landlord. And her name is?
Is it Lori?
Lori. We're going to go with that.
Yeah, I think it's Lori. Is that Rocky's love interest?
Yes.
Lori. His name is Lori.
She slaps him across the face. Yeah. Gives him a room. It costs a whopping $5 a week.
Which is nothing compared to now.
Yeah, I don't know how he afforded it.
I know.
Rocky decides, well, I got $100,000 saved up. I'll be able to pay rent for a long, long time with that. He goes down to see Humphrey Bogart.
Who's Fraser?
Okay.
Fraser's a lawyer.
Fraser.
Yeah.
He's not listening, but he is.
No, not Fraser. Fraser.
Okay.
Fraser.
He goes to see Bogey. And Bogart's like, oh, I didn't know you had gotten out. I thought it was next month. And Cadney gets right to the point. He's like, I want my money. Bogart says it's going to take me like a few days to get that. And he's like, cool. Maybe in the meantime, you can tell me what job you have lined up for me. You know, since I took the rap, I'm going to be involved in your future operations. Mm-hmm. Bogart is a little bit shocked by this and is trying to squeal his way out of the situation when his associate comes in the door and offers to give James Cadney a ride home. Mm-hmm. We should say that Bogart gave Rocky like $500 just to tie him over.
Yeah.
Okay, so like a day later, this group of street hoodlums is hanging out, and they steal Rocky's wallet. Mm-hmm. Go off into their little hideout. Rocky knows this place like the back of his hand because it's his old neighborhood. Follows him and is like, hey, guys, give me back my wallet. You know I could have you all killed, but I'm going to be cool about it. And by the way, don't hide here. Everybody knows about this hiding spot. He shows them the initials on the wall. Yeah. They're admiring him. He says, okay, I'm giving one of you $5. Go get us some food. Meet me back in my apartment. Mm-hmm. What's really interesting is when they're talking at the apartment, they're like, oh yeah, here's $4.50 and change back. Mm-hmm. Like, wow. Food was really a lot cheaper back then.
Yeah. Wow.
Yes. They're like, they look up to him. Jerry comes in and says, all right, guys, it's time to come play basketball. They're like, tell Rocky, you know Jerry? And he's like, oh, yeah, Jerry and I used to run these streets. Let me come down and watch you guys play. And I bet you like $1 that you won't beat the other team. And I haven't even seen them yet. At one point, Rocky is on the basketball court and he starts slapping these guys around, which I thought was funny.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So time goes on. Rocky develops a relationship with the kids and with
Lori.
Lori.
Yes.
And Jerry's trying to believe there's a good man inside Rocky. Right. But meanwhile, he's not really getting his money.
Nope.
From Humphrey Bogart.
Yep.
Goes back one night. He pulls a gun on Bogart, gets some information from his safe, along with $2,000, and says, all right, listen, I'm taking this, and I'm getting my money tomorrow. Call up your boss to let him know. Mm-hmm. I believe, was this after the murder attempts?
I cannot remember.
All right, we won't get into that part of it. But
okay. I think it might have been before. I'm not sure, actually.
Gotcha. In any event, Rocky kidnaps this guy, gets his $100,000, goes back to the old neighborhood. The guy who was Fraser's boss calls the authorities. So Rocky gives the money to one of the kids named Soapy. Yep. To hide it for him. Mm-hmm. He eventually gets released by the cops, gets the money back, gives the kids the money, and they go a little bit wild. Mm-hmm. Jerry is becoming more and more concerned that Rocky is a bad influence on these children. Yep. Some stuff happens. Jerry decides that even though it pains him, he has to turn on his old friend because now he's working with Bogart and Bogart's boss. And he's going to be really bad for the whole area. Yep. So he starts this campaign. And at one point, Rocky, Humphrey Bogart, and what's the other guy's name?
Humphrey Bogart's name?
No, the other guy, the boss. The third guy in this.
I forgot.
Okay.
I forgot.
The three of them are listening to the radio as Jerry's basically shit-talking Rocky. And saying, we're taking him to trial tomorrow, and we're going to triumph over him. Everybody's speculating, well, let's have him killed. Yeah. But Rocky still has affection for Jerry. So he's like, no, we're not doing that. You guys figure it out. He ends up murdering those two guys and getting into this like long confrontation with the cops that Jerry intervenes on and basically gets Rocky sent to prison. Mm-hmm. Rocky goes on trial, is convicted and sentenced to death. It's the night of his execution. Jerry comes to see him and says, I know you're not afraid, Rocky, but I need you to do something for me. I need you to pretend like you're afraid of dying tonight. And the reason is that the media's reporting on this. And if they report that you were scared, the kids who look up to you are going to think twice. And you have a really cool opportunity to save people's lives right now. He's like, no, bro, I ain't going out like that. Mm-hmm. Start walking him down. Eventually, they start to strap him in, and he starts yelling, no, I don't want to go to hell. I don't want to go to hell.
Right.
He's executed. Next day, kids are reading about this in the newspaper. Who comes in? Jerry,
Father Conley, yep.
Yeah. And the father tells him it's true. Rocky was screaming like a little baby girl, and let's go play basketball. That's where the movie ends.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much I like this movie.
It was good.
Yes. Yes.
Really makes you think.
It does. So, I mean, there are a few flaws. There are definitely holes in this movie. Like, I found it weird when they're having the shootout that Laurie or whatever.
Laurie, yeah.
And Father Conley would just happen to come by.
Yeah.
That's okay. That's a little bit.
That's weird.
Yeah.
That is weird. Like, why would you go there?
Yeah.
Well, I know why Jerry went there, because she said, "Look, I can convince him to get out of the building."
No, but you got to remember, this is before cell phones or mass media. So how did he know to go there? Because this is on a different side of town too.
That's true. Good point.
Yes. Yeah. But it works overall.
Yes.
We can start doing character analysis.
Okay.
What does Humphrey Bogart teach us about greed?
Oh, because he didn't give him the money?
Yeah, I mean, he's forced to eventually, but he's doing pretty well for himself, and he still wants to hold on to that cash.
He's a very greedy, loyal. Yeah, well, I don't know how to answer that question.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think what it teaches us is some people will put greed above their own safety.
That is true.
You know.
That is true. I care more about my cash than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very true. Very greedy.
I was hoping for I'm going to switch around, a more in-depth answer from you. But
I know, but I couldn't think of one. I don't have all the answers.
Oh, I know, babes.
You don't either.
I have most of them, okay?
Oh, my goodness.
Because I'm the bald god, okay? Okay. What do the kids teach us about false idols?
Yeah, because they really looked up to Rocky, because he's this, he was this gangster, and he's still kind of living this life, and yeah, it's very bad influence on these kids, and so much to the point where now they were trying to influence the younger kids. Not good. Not good. Not a good role model for these kids. Not at all.
Okay. What does Father Conley teach us about life in general? What are some life lessons from him?
I think that he was trying to teach what's his name? Rocky, that redemption is possible. You don't have to live your old life. You can start off afresh, but Rocky didn't want to do that.
Was Rocky actually afraid when they strapped him into the chair, or was he faking for the father's sake?
I wondered that too. I kind of wonder if he was faking it. I mean, it seemed real, but remember when Father Conley said, I want you to beg for mercy.
Remember that. I put that in the recap just a minute ago.
Yes, I know. Sorry, I was repeating it. But anyway, it bears repeating. I wondered that too, actually. I mean, it seemed like he was serious, but I wonder if it was just because, just for the father's sake. So I don't know.
Why do you think you've made it to almost 41 years old?
Yes.
Without hearing about this movie?
I don't know. I can't explain that. All I know is that I've heard that Humphrey Bogart did a lot of movies, but for some reason I never heard this one. How do you, as a 38-year-old, almost 39-year-old, not see this movie either?
That's a good question. But at least I had heard of it before. Mm-hmm. You know, I guess that's my way of deflecting.
Well, I'm
saying I can't hear about everything. Some things are just going to fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Well, the most important thing is that we saw it last night.
Yes. What did you think of this gang of kids?
They're kind of funny.
I told you this last night. For some reason, they reminded me of the Beastie Boys.
Oh, and I said, why? And you're like, I don't know. They just do. They didn't seem, they seemed harmless. I thought they were kind of funny, though. Mm-hmm. I mean, their accents were funny. They just sounded funny. They were, goofing around in their basketball game. I don't know.
Rocky's like slapping them.
Yeah. What was he doing? Like doing something to the kid's nose?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Just really, really, messing with these kids. I think maybe he genuinely liked these kids.
I do too.
But I don't think that he was able to be a good influence to these kids.
No, he saw like, oh, these guys remind me of me when I was their age. And
right.
They need somebody to take them under their wing and, talk to them every once in a while.
Right.
Yes. Is it odd for you? I don't know this for sure, so I'm making an assumption.
Okay.
But I think, considering that the movie came out like 83 years ago, it's safe to assume that everybody in this movie is now dead. And everybody who was involved with it has passed away.
Probably, yes.
How do you feel about watching movies like that?
I like it, I think. It's a different, it was a different time. I like seeing movies that I generally wouldn't see regularly. Like this. Like this movie. Mm-hmm. And just seeing how younger people were back then. They were just so different. They seemed so much older. Yeah. Because they came from a different time.
What do you think happens to Lori?
I think she just goes on with her life. I mean, what can she do? I mean, her, Rocky is gone now.
And they never, officially dated, but it looked like it was heading in that direction.
It seemed like they were close to officially dating it, right? If they weren't officially dating, they were close to it.
We should also say that her husband was involved with some nefarious activity and was murdered about 4 years before Rocky moved into the building.
I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think she just kind of goes on with their life managing the building. She's lived a hard life.
At one point, the scene where the kids are back at Rocky's place eating, one of the kids mentioned, bread lines. Mm. And that was a real thing back then.
It was,
even though it was joked about.
Bread lines, wow. Every time I think of bread lines, I think about other countries like
Somalia or
Saudi Arabia or Syria, right?
I don't know. But I hear what you're saying.
But bread lines, can you imagine?
What do you think it was like for a teenager to see this movie back when it came out?
I would imagine it was very much, it went with the times, right? Mm-hmm. I would imagine that was very poignant to their time as they're growing up.
According to Wikipedia, when it was released, it made $1.7 million.
Only.
Well, back then
it was a lot.
I mean, now a movie can do that in an afternoon.
Yes.
Right? And that's still considered disappointing. But back then, I imagine that was maybe not that wasn't the biggest film ever, but that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, I do think about stuff like that. What would it have been like to go and actually see this movie?
I know, yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Is there any questions you have about the film?
Excuse me. Yeah, I want to ask you about that scene where Rocky is begging for mercy. What did you think about it? Because I don't know what to think about that scene.
Well, that's the thing. I'm confused about it too. It could be a genuine thing, or it could be at the last minute he's like, you know what, I'm going out. I know who I am. My friend knows, the preacher dude, he knows who I am. So why don't I do this for the kids? And it'll send a good message. It's not going to matter to me in 5 minutes anyway. But it also could be he realizes that he really messed up in life.
And also, too, because remember before he goes out, he was going to spit in the warden's eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, just think that guy was that yellow rat was going to spit in my eye. You know.
Did I ever tell you, babes, that I met somebody who was a bootlegger back in the 1920s?
Wow, really?
Yeah, this, obviously, this was not yesterday. It was like several years ago, like way, maybe even more than 15 years before we met. And this person was like in their 90s at the time.
Oh, wow.
Right. But they briefly got into bootlegging.
Mm-hmm.
And...
About 15 years before you met this guy?
No, 15 years before I met you.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And this guy was in his 90s at the time.
Oh, wow.
Okay. He was telling me that he was thinking about getting out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And the person he was doing it with, he was working with some gangster. It wasn't like Al Capone, but it was somebody.
Wow.
It was some, well-known gangster, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And he told somebody, well, I'm thinking about leaving this racket. They turned over to him and they said, oh no, once you get in it, you're in it. And then next week, the guy who said that to him got killed. And he was
wow.
able to leave it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
He got
whacked.
Wow, he got whacked.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Does that make you look at me differently?
No.
Oh.
I don't think so.
That I broke bread with somebody in the bootlegging industry.
Well, I mean, how would you have known that if he didn't tell you?
That's a very good point.
You know what I mean? I mean, where did you meet this guy?
I met him. Oh, I don't know if I guess I can say.
Well, it's not like anyone's gonna.
Okay, so my grandparents got in contact with their old teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and this was he was the principal of the school that one of my grandparents went to.
Okay.
So they were like really, really old.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, I think they died like a couple years later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The teachers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
But they were like deep in their 90s.
Wow. Oh, they're old.
Yes. But they were still relatively active back then.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
It sounded like that guy told you a lot of stories then.
Only a few.
That one.
It was interesting though. I liked hearing that stuff.
Yeah.
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 Yes, Gable.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I do enjoy speaking with older people. They just have a lot of stories about life to tell. Sorry.
That's all right. It's your shtick.
No, it's not my shtick.
Yes.
But no, they're just full of stories, and I like hearing stories.
Yes. There's a part of me, and maybe it's because I'm a guy, that likes to romanticize the idea of the 19 teens through 30s gangster. I like the image of that.
Okay.
And obviously, it's because we're separated by time. If I was living in the same era with those people, I would probably be scared out of my mind.
You probably would, yeah.
But how do you feel about that? What do you think of that type of person?
Well, they're definitely not, I mean, in my opinion, they don't seem as hardcore as they would today,
mm-hmm.
right? Because you hear about gangsters, shooting and mauling and, pillaging in their neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
And just doing just horrible things. I would imagine that they were a lot tamer back then. Not that I condone gang violence at all, or gang activity at all, but I think that they were not quite like the gangs of our time, for sure. They're not like gangs of New York.
Which I still haven't seen.
And I mean, I liked it, but I'm not really into like action and gangster movies.
Oh.
But it wasn't bad. It was a Scorsese, movie, so you know you're going to get something good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say about Angels with Dirty Faces?
I wasn't sure what it was going to be about. So.
I knew it was a gangster movie, but that's about all I was aware of.
Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, was that in the way?
Yeah, your foot.
My foot was in the way. Oh,
That's okay, honey.
Okay.
Okay, honey.
That's the way you said it. So funny.
I love you, honey. Would you recommend this movie to people?
I would. I think it really would make a person think about life and what you're doing with it and influences kids will have and how impressionable they are. I mean, it really makes you think about a lot of things about redemption. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good, Jaylo.
It's right.
Yes. I think we may have covered everything, babes. Unless there's something you wanted to talk about.
No, I don't think so. I think that's good.
Feel good about this?
That's right.
Or maybe we should kiss.
Kissy.
Kissy. And after this, we'll take a little photo.
We'll see.
We'll see. All right.
All right.
Stay cool.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.